Hi everyone and welcome to Equestrian. Today we are breaking down pole work. Our horse isn't a huge fan of pole work exercises, so the videos are far from perfect. Today we'll try to show some common mistakes which mostly occur due to some understatements or misunderstandings. First of all, why do we even bother with pole work? So firstly, we as equestrians need to realize that it isn't our job to ride through the poles. That's the horse's job and you should not interfere with it. The riders in these exercises are supposed to take care of their own balance and the horse exercises on its own. The poles are used to improve the balance of the rider and the horse and are very often a preparation for jumping. Secondly, ride through the middle of each pole. Your job begins and ends at making a proper turn. It is the responsibility of the rider to correctly ride through the turn, straighten the horse, maintain the balance of their own body, and then, after passing the poles, lead the horse into a new turn. It is a huge mistake to correct the direction the horse is going in while already riding through the poles. Not because it ruins anything, but because in this situation the exercise neither benefits the rider nor the horse and does not lead to progress. It is simply a waste of time. The rider and the horse are supposed to practice balance, and ruining that balance with the lack of ability to maintain the right direction is unnecessary. Don't be surprised if your instructor gets strongly irritated if you cut corners. It is simply disrespectful to his work and to the effort put in by your horse. Next up, we've got the ultimate question, to 2-point or not to 2-point. See, it depends. We ride through the poles differently depending on what we want to achieve. This is a topic for another video, but no matter which position you choose, never surprise the horse by changing the balance last minute. That is, if the poles are to be ridden in a 2-point, take that position up a few steps earlier and stay in the position a few steps after the last pole. The horse also has to find its balance and in addition place its foot in the right spot. It is unacceptable to make it difficult for the horse by not thinking, which unfortunately I see very often. Once again, we want to decide on the position a few steps before the exercise and maintain that balance and position a few steps after. Otherwise, all these exercises really only lead to mistakes and frustration, which are the cause of refusing jumps and falls. If you want to avoid all this, think this through very carefully. My next point is not to hold on to the saddle with your knees like your life depends on it. I hope this no longer surprises you these days. Modern horsemanship is based on maintaining your balance, not on clenched muscles and teeth. The knees are supposed to work and help steer the horse and not keep the rider in the saddle. Pay attention so that the knees are positioned along the horse and don't let them wander in any other direction than the one in which you are going in. This way they won't hurt, since knee flexion should also be natural. Despite the high mobility, the knees work best and most efficiently only on one track. Moving on to our next point, keeping your heels down is not enough. This is still a useful slogan and a helpful remark, however it is worth understanding why exactly we pay so much attention to the heels in these exercises. Attempting to jump without flexible ankle joints will lead to a hard landing and possible injury. If you learn from the beginning to keep these joints relaxed and working, you will quickly discover that there is only one position in which this is possible, if, of course, at the same time you want to maintain the ability to use your calves and not hold on to the horse like your life depends on it. A proper ankle position while going through the poles will lead to a great landing after a jump and the ability to cushion the huge movement of the horse. At the same time, think about the positioning of the foot itself. It has to be parallel to the horse's spine, so you don't want to look like a spider with your toes sticking out to the side. Not because it's ugly, but because it stiffens the ankle, and what would then be the point of doing pole work if balance has no right to appear? Here we are providing a little sample of our method. Don't pull your heels down, pull your toes up, and rest your weight on the stirrups. Seemingly it's the same thing, yet how differently the muscles work. You can try it while standing on the ground to feel the difference. If you stop holding on to the horse with your knees and calves, you may lose your balance, and that's kinda the whole point. The balance is to be maintained in the saddle on the positioning of the hips and on the stirrups. Your balance is not supposed to rely on the horse. If at first you can't imagine having a flexible ankle at all, Then try one step at a time with each leg separately until you feel comfortable with it. Moving on to number 6, your hips and knees work in each step. In this exercise, the horse moves a lot. Maintaining balance so that you look stable from the outside actually requires a lot of moving from the rider. From this angle, it looks more like Samba or Zumba than sitting still. If you want more stability and a sense of security, also take care of the hip joints. They must open and close with each step. When your knee starts working, it will look like you're not doing anything. Hip stiffness is the most common and problematic mistake. Hard to correct, so I prefer a loss of balance for a few steps but working hips than stable but stiffened hips for the entire exercise. Surprisingly, stiffened hip joints are a bigger mistake than a loss of balance. To sum it all up, it is good to keep your bridges as close to the saddle as possible and the hip joints working rhythmically, each one of them separately. Our next point in riding pose is to free the horse's shoulders. The poles placed under the horse's feet are to be used to make the animal work with its shoulder blades better and harder. Therefore, we do not lunge ourselves on the horse's shoulder blades with all our weight. We shouldn't overtake the horse's balance. We should be able to control the hindquarters, the flexibility of our own ankles, and provide the horse with plenty of room to work with its withers and shoulders. Here I probably won't surprise you by saying yet again that the head weighs a lot. We shouldn't look down, not because it looks messy, but to maintain balance. The poles and going over them is the horse's problem, and our job is only to keep our body in a proper position. The 8th point of this video is to keep your hands parallel. At first we are all taught to put our hands on the horse's neck. This is to spare the horse's mouth so that the horse doesn't have to pay for the beginner rider's lack of balance. This is very correct, however, if you have any influence on the exercise itself, try to do it properly. So the hand placed on the horse's neck is stiff and acts the same as side reins. Once the basic balance is achieved, this hand placement leads nowhere. Try to get your wrists in the correct vertical position. We went over that in our last video, so check that out. You should also try to leave some room for the horse's shoulder blade to work. The hands should still determine the track on which the horse is moving and allow the horse to move between or aids. The contact should be maintained as it should in any other exercise. The next point is that the horse's shoulders should move upwards. Here I will not be surprised if you have never heard this. I don't see trainers or instructors mentioning it either. So let's recall the idea of this exercise. Pole work should strengthen the work of the horse's legs, including the shoulder blades. It is absolutely the rider's responsibility to make sure that the horse, as it's going over the poles, does not lose the engagement of the hind end and does not collapse the balance towards the front. For my jumpers out there, it will also be very important to release the shoulder blades upward just before the first pole, as this is what makes a nice technically correct jump possible. It is for this reason that it is unacceptable, in our opinion, for the rider to lean on the horse's shoulders by going into a 2-point at the last moment before the pole itself. It simply limits the movement of the horse's shoulders. Keeping your head up and joining the bones of the shoulder blades in the lower back will help, under the condition that this does not stiffen the entire position. Next, we've got contact on the bit. Here we will probably be unpopular, but well-ridden pose should be executed while maintaining the same contact on the bit as in the turn, in front of the pose and after them. If the exercise is to be done on a completely loose rein, then let's loosen the reins a few steps beforehand. This will allow the horse to find its balance in the new situation. Throwing the reins on the pose last minute is just leading the horse up the garden path and throwing them into the pose. Why the contact is so important is explained in a separate video on the subject. Here I would like to quickly get back to the whole point of the exercise. It's supposed to lead to an improved balance and not to a total loss of balance. The goal is to keep all the riding aids flexible and cooperative and to prove it despite the increased demands, and not to run over sticks. And lastly, try to have a little fun with it. After all, it's a fun exercise. As per usual, we have prepared a little pro tip for you guys. The shorter the pose in relation to the horse's natural gait, the faster it will run through them, and vice versa. The longer its steps have to be, the slower the horse will take them. This happens due to pure physics, but the easiest way is to imagine children who want to step on every tile of the pavement. The smaller the steps have to be, the faster the child will run. The longer the jumps the kid has to take, the slower they gather energy. The horse works exactly the same way. If your horse is rushing through the pose, slow down the rhythm in the turn as much as you can and go into the pose too slow. Then your only job will be to watch the rhythm. With each step, your horse will also get more and more comfortable. Likewise, if your horse is slowing down, speed up the rhythm. It will even out as you ride over the pose. Remember, I'm not talking about step length, I'm talking about rhythm. Singing something rhythmic is not bad if it helps you maintain the rhythm. That is it for today, guys. Visit us on Instagram and TikTok for even more content. Remember to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up if you liked the video. Also subscribe to our Patreon page. It costs you nothing and you will always find some additional content there. For our patrons, we also provide different exercises and other benefits. Take care!